The start of a new year is a time for reflection, especially when processing a diagnosis. In this episode, we're discussing how to navigate those reflections and prepare for what's ahead. Let's step into the new year with clarity and purpose.
I wanted to talk to you more about the self diagnosis process and processing all of the things that you're going to go through or that you might potentially go through after a formal and official diagnosis. And before, I would come at this from a place of being a parent and receiving an autism diagnosis for your child. But what I am finding, at least with myself, after the formal diagnosis for me, it did take me a while to process because I went into this expecting that I was going to walk away with an ADHD diagnosis. That much I was completely prepared for. What I was not expecting was the autism diagnosis until I had some time to really think about things. And I had to sit with it for a while. So I did. And I got deep into my head. I let myself hyper focus. I let myself fixate on this. And I'm all the better for it because once I started understanding, you know, what this meant for me and what it meant for how I approach things or how I perceive things or how I interpret things, how I understand things, so much started to make sense. And I understood all of the things that I was doing to help support my autistic daughter were also helping me, but in a very inadvertent way because it wasn't for me, it was for her. But I was able to set things up for her to support her and to support the environment around her so that she didn't have to adapt to the environment. I was adapting the environment around her. And by adapting the environment around her, I was also adapting the environment around me to help me see things and to help me say, oh, okay, why this is this way. Because it got to the point where it's like, all right, so this is just one of those ingrained things. Wasn't thinking anything of it. For example, setting up the functional routines and schedules for my daughter and leaving her space for transition, leaving her space to have moments for a meltdown or for the inevitable meltdown that could come if we deviated from her schedule. Because I realized how much I needed that predictable routine, how much I needed a predictable schedule, to still have some transition space in between things and to also have some flexible space if something went off of the schedule. Because there were plenty of times that my schedule has been completely thrown off. And yeah, I would have what you would call a meltdown over it. Like it's shut down, not a complete shutdown, but, and not even a complete meltdown either. But I had a very difficult time letting go of that day or of that moment. It was supposed to go like this on my schedule. It was supposed to go like this in my routine, but then it didn't. And it would take me some time to get myself back together. And creating those things and putting those things into place for my daughter, my autistic daughter, has also helped me. And researching things that were to help her, like the executive dysfunction issues or emotional dysregulation, I realized looking back now, and this was maybe 2 or 3 years ago when I was doing my behavior management course, yeah, so much of what I was doing for her to help her to support her ended up inadvertently helping and supporting me without my knowing it. But now it's like, all right, so I've always had these things in place. I just never realized I had them in place. So now that I've been able to do these things for her and I've been able to do these things for me, that's why going into the whole self diagnosis process, I think while I was looking more for the ADHD piece, I was also subtly looking for the autism pieces because I started thinking about it and was like, wait a minute, maybe there is something else going on in addition to the ADHD. I don't know. And then even when I finally did get that formal diagnosis, both, like, oh, crap, you're right. That's what this was all along. Okay. But it still took me time to process and it still took me some time to let it all sink in. Because if you don't give yourself this time to process in whatever way it is that you're going to, whether it means that you go hyper focus on it or you fixate on it or you talk to a friend about it or you talk to a trusted family member, at some point, my biggest recommendation is to find a support group of some kind or to find a support person of some kind just to talk just so you can get these things out of your head, because that was the biggest thing that I needed, was just to get these things out of my head, get my thoughts out of my head, and in such a way that maybe didn't make sense to the person I was talking to, but just to get them off my chest. If you ever want to talk about these things, if you are in the process stage of your either your self-diagnosis or your formal diagnosis, or if you're just starting on the self-diagnosis stage or you're starting on that formal diagnosis stage and you just want someone to lend an ear to listen to you without, any kind of expectation, then I would absolutely invite you to reach out and schedule that. And I would love to talk to you and support you through all of this. So that's all I have for you. For Hope have an amazing day.